Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating debate transcript about an invisible system that, well, we all live under every single day. I'm talking about meritocracy. It's a concept so completely baked into our lives that we almost never stop to question it. But, as we're about to see, maybe we really should.
Just think about it for a second. We all deal with school exams, grueling job hunts, the endless race for promotions. We're taught from a super young age that if we just work hard and develop our skills, we're going to be rewarded. But looking at the source debate we're unpacking today, we have to ask a pretty profound question. Is rewarding people based solely on their ability and effort actually morally just? Or is it just a convenient way to run a society? Okay, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the meritocracy dilemma, then the affirmative case, followed by the negative case, and finally, the final verdict.
Let's jump right in. Section 1. The meritocracy dilemma.
So, meritocracy. Basically, it's the idea that what you achieve in life, your income, your social standing, your career, should be determined entirely by your own capabilities and hard work. It's the belief that rewards shouldn't be dictated by how wealthy your family is, but by what you actually bring to the table. I mean, on the surface, that sounds incredibly fair, right? But as this debate totally reveals, the reality on the ground is way more complicated.
Moving right along to Section 2, the affirmative case.
The affirmative side comes out swinging. They ground meritocracy as the absolute most rational and fair foundation for any modern democratic society. Think about history for a second. Society used to be run by these rigid, arbitrary caste systems. If you were born to a king, boom, you had power. If you were born to a peasant, well, you stayed a peasant no matter how hard you worked. Meritocracy shattered that whole irrational system. They argue that selecting people based on what they can do rather than who their parents are is just an undeniable leap forward for human fairness. They build this really powerful argument on three highly practical pillars. First, like we just said, it eliminates that arbitrary bloodline discrimination. Second, it maximizes social benefit by putting the right people in the right jobs, which makes sure society functions at its absolute best. And third, it respects individual effort. The affirmative makes a super strong point here. If your effort didn't change your outcome, people would literally lose all motivation to try. Meritocracy sends this vital message that your hard work actually matters. And here's the crucial point they make. Society relies entirely on this efficiency. Imagine, just for a second, choosing an airline pilot or a nuclear power plant engineer by a random lottery. Actually, let's make it more personal. Imagine drawing a name from a hat to see who performs your open heart surgery. No way. That would be incredibly dangerous. We absolutely need highly skilled people in these roles to protect lives and keep things running. So they argue merit-based selection isn't just a nice to have. It's absolutely essential for a safe, functioning world. All right, Section 3, the negative case. The negative side steps up and deconstructs all of that with three really empathetic, heavy-hitting blows. First, they argue that meritocracy completely ignores the sheer luck of birth, things like wealth, genetics, and early environment. Second, they say it breeds contempt for the so-called losers in society, quietly equating a person's human value to their market value. And third, they argue the affirmative side is dangerously confusing mere operational efficiency with true moral justice. To back up that first point about the starting line, they bring in the renowned political philosopher John Rawls. Rawls famously argued that the intelligence you happen to be born with, or the wealthy family that can afford your expensive tutors, that is pure unadulterated luck. He calls these morally arbitrary elements. So the negative argues that because our abilities are so heavily shaped by environments we never chose in the first place, rewarding those abilities just reinforces an unfair advantage, disguised as merit. Furthermore, they cite contemporary philosopher Michael Sandel to explain the severe psychological toll this system takes. According to the transcript, meritocracy creates this environment where the winners become incredibly arrogant. They mistakenly believe their success is 100% their own doing. On the flip side, the losers in this hyper-competitive race don't just lose out on money. They feel their very human value is denied. They internalize it, believing their failure is entirely their own fault. Now, during the cross-examination phase, the negative side offered this incredibly sharp response to the whole efficiency argument. They said, imagine a company maximizing its profits by relentlessly cutting the jobs of the elderly or the disabled. Sure, that might be highly efficient for the organization's bottom line, but we would never, ever call that justice. True justice, they argue, absolutely must include human dignity and care for the vulnerable.
So this brings us to the core clash of the entire debate. We are essentially looking at two completely different definitions of what makes a society good. The affirmative is evaluating how well the societal machine runs, right? Like, are the smartest people doing the hardest jobs? Meanwhile, the negative is asking a fundamentally different question. Does that machine treat the people inside it with basic fairness and unconditional dignity, completely regardless of what they produce?
Which brings us to Section 4, the final verdict.
When breaking down the arguments, the judge explicitly noted that the affirmative absolutely successfully proved that meritocracy is a highly useful, practical system for organizing society. I mean, even the negative side agreed we need competent surgeons, right? But, and this is the big but, they fundamentally failed to bridge the gap between mere usefulness and moral justice.
And so, the judge officially awarded the victory to the negative side. The ruling declared that while meritocracy is a necessary practical tool for society to function safely, you just cannot blindly equate it with absolute moral justice. The fact that the whole system relies so heavily on the unearned luck of genetics and your childhood environment means it's inherently flawed as a standalone moral compass.
As this debate beautifully highlighted, we obviously all need competent doctors to operate on us and skilled pilots to fly our planes. But we also desperately need a society that values every single human being, completely regardless of their economic output or their test scores. So, having explored both sides of this amazing clash, I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. How do you think we should balance the necessary efficiency of meritocracy with true human dignity in our real world?